Happy New Year. How was your holidays?
It was good. Good food, and then went out, partied a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yep.
I think we're all just kind of coming back in and first day back and trying to get things situated. So hopefully we'll have some stuff ready for Sunday.
Yeah.
But is there anything you need from my front in the meantime?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything you need from my front? Just because I'm back in the city.
Honestly, I haven't been able to, get it all figured out yet. So
cool. That totally fine by me because I'm going back to my list that I had from before I went on my break, and I got plenty already to work with, so I'll take that.
All right. Okay, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. But give me a shot if you need anything.
Will do. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Oh, yes. I have Corolla putting a business app together so that we can get a court center bank account. Okay. That way the money can be tracked a little bit easier, you know what I mean, instead of all coming out of the county account.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
It makes a lot more sense that way.
Yes.
For anything specifically. I mean, because it is private property, it makes more sense for that to operate privately. Even if it is being backed by the I just got a text from Barrett, being backed by the county. So I think that's fantastic. It will help with tracking on all sides.
All right, easy.
There was something I wanted to run past you because you do oversee PD.
I think tomorrow is probably the best idea if it's heavy.
It's not. We'll talk tomorrow then. All good.
Okay. Easy.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's more like I realized we ran into an issue and it sounded like it came from DOJ. I rectified saying this didn't come from DOJ. Go back to the way it was, and I'm realizing it might be misconstrued. We can talk tomorrow. It's weird.
Okay.
So I reached out to Peters because I was told that apparently PD has been told that any charge involving any government employee being charged, their case has to go to the docket. And that never came from DOJ. I don't know who really said that.
That's a historic thing, I think.
Oh, okay. Because I was asking the other justices, and all of us were like, "Huh?
Wait, really?
Never mind. It makes no sense." Yeah.
Yeah, it's been like that from the beginning of time.
Okay, but remember also the justices who are actually talking and actually doing the job right now. Anyways, so for us, it didn't make too much sense because there was no backing for people getting suspended. And it's just a suspension. It's just, to make it so they don't have access to government armories or government, medical supplies. So I was like, well, especially if they're pleading guilty, I see no reason for them to have to go to the docket. Or, if they're being charged with something, right. They're being charged with something, then and they want to plead not guilty, then it should immediately go to a bench trial. It shouldn't go to a docket. And let's say they're found, guilty at that trial, then they should go for a appeal, but it would still be considered, a suspension in the meantime. It's not a firing, it's not a termination, it's a suspension. I think there was a hesitation on Peter's part because it sounded like I'm treating PD in that mentality, or just as PD as an example. This is coming actually from an entirely different department, as a criminal at that point, because they're not necessarily found guilty, but in my mind they're found guilty if it goes to a bench trial and they're guilty and then they go for the appeal. It just gives a backing for the suspension, instead of them being able to run around freely until their docket hearing.
The thing is though, the suspension is an internal decision, right? So
correct. But I think all of our SOPs are backed by the fact if, you have a felony or a violent felony or even some violent misdemeanors, that you would be, I guess, honestly, for our SOPs for the DOJ, it's that we'd be terminated.
Yep, with them as well.
Right. So I would imagine if it would then go to an appeal, obviously, I cannot think of a single soul, whether I like them or not, that I wouldn't give their job back to if they got their charges appealed. So I don't know. It was a weird kind of narrative because there's currently somebody who most certainly should be charged with things, but hasn't been because they haven't had their day in court. This sounds so weird, but unfortunately, I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to tell you. If this feels so weird, but anyways, I don't know. Just in case that comes to you from Peters, that was my perspective and where I was coming from. It had actually nothing to do with PD. It was entirely coming from the hospital side of things.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is one of those, like, all, as far as I'm aware, any government entities, including EMS, the judges, doctors, PD, it always goes to the docket. And
Always,
then,
even if they plead guilty, if they plead guilty.
Well, if they plead guilty, well, yeah, then there is no docket, right?
Right? That would, I mean, in my
But
mind,
this is a docket case. This is a guilty case.
it's. I was told it was, but because I don't actually have it in writing. So here's okay. Can I just
Maybe that's why it's got to go to the docket. I don't know.
Well, okay. Hypothetically, let's say that there is an EMS worker who commits drug trafficking, right?
Yeah.
And they get arrested for it. They brought down to MRPD. The officer is like, okay, you are being charged with drug trafficking. And the person says, okay, sure, I plead guilty to that. But then the PD goes, oh, well, actually, guess what? We can't charge you right now because you have to go to a docket hearing. That EMS
okay, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yep, there we go. That EMS can still operate in full capacity and go get supplies from the hospital. And then, I mean, honestly, listen, I'm no criminal, but if I was in that position, 100% you better bet that I would be going through those.
But in that scenario, I agree. It doesn't go. You could probably skip the docket. That would be just a waste of time. But wouldn't they be kept until the keys are taken?
I would like to think so, but in this hypothetical case, this person was released from MRPD and said, see what you're hearing. Which is then at the docket. And I'm sure you are well aware how the DOJ, we do cases, they get posted to the docket. We see what judge can possibly take them and we schedule. And it usually takes, it's getting shorter now, but still about 2 weeks.
Yeah, that is strange because they pled guilty. So don't they go to prison?
Yeah. You'd think, but nope, they were released because they're a government worker and the mentality is that they have to have a hearing. It makes no sense to me.
But they're skipping it by saying guilty.
Correct. That's how it works for me as well. And so I'm like thinking, okay, well, this mentality of, oh, government employees have to have a formal hearing makes no sense to me. If you want to make the middle ground of it, if they're pleading guilty, I think that's a good middle ground. I think that's like something we can talk to PD and like, let's have the announcement go like from that avenue. If they're pleading guilty, even if they're a government employee, then just charge them. Oh, you're thinking, I'm so sorry. It makes no fucking sense. But yeah, I was letting you know that. So I talked to Peters about that. So if you hear it from Peters,
I just,
that's what my intentions were.
I just kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I get this feeling like everyone's so checked out that they don't even process words that are being said.
I was wondering what is happening, because I was like, this makes no, like you said, by pleading guilty, you're pressing skip on your day in court. You acknowledge the crimes you committed. And so I'm just trying to figure out the best solution.
I can say that there was a generation of EMS chief that allowed felons as EMS.
I heard there was a time when doctors were allowed to have, was it just violent felony? Sorry, not violent felonies? They're allowed to have felonies, but just not violent ones. Or maybe it was just, they couldn't have felonies. I'm forgetting. But so EMS as well, I guess they could have, honestly, with our current constituents, that wouldn't surprise me. All right. Well, I just wanted to give you a heads up if Peter comes to you and is acting confused, because I don't know. I might have minus 100 that one. So if he comes to you, that was what I was talking to him about.
Okay.
Well, that was it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I just like I feel like this is like an email situation. Like what the I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm only, because the only part of me that's unsure is like, how there's some things that are like high commandy city health related shit. Like,
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
but by your retelling, it sounds like people just didn't want to process the situation.
I'm really trying to
And they're
give the
just
benefit
hitting
of
the
the doubt here
keywords.
that wasn't the case, because if that was the case, I'm gonna be pissed.
I think that is the case. I hate to tell you.
Okay.
I dealt with it so much the last like couple weeks where I'm talking to a wall and they're just picking up keywords instead of
The buzzwords.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
so I'm just left like, why am I talking? Like, what is the point?
You're talking from one yapper to another, and I feel like I have to be very like skilled in what words I choose and how to use them, because I'm like, okay, they're only gonna hear probably one of these like 10 words that I'm saying.
Oh my god, that's literally what I've been dealing with for like 2 weeks now. Like I swear, like the IQ level is so bad. Like
Okay, so I'm
like
not crazy.
No, you're not. I end up speaking a lot more because I have to like paint the entirety of the wall, because I know the other person is probably like soze word. You know what I mean? In terms of their capacity to like comprehend. So it just, you know, I don't know. Like I'm telling you, that's
I feel
what's
like
happening.
it's constantly kindergarten, and I'm like you said, I'm painting a roadmap, and I have to use like, okay, Candyland, right? Which all the kids will understand, be very excited by.
Yeah.
And then I'll move to the next topic, and I'm like, okay, Marshmallow Valley, and they're like, woo! So I don't know. You're not alone. Heads up, that's what I'm dealing with something just in your universe. I want to talk to Weiss about marshals, and I would love for you also be part of that conversation. But I think I want to have a bit more of a flushed out idea, and then we'll come to you and talk about it, because I think it will affect PD, and I want to see what people are comfortable with.
I'm slowly giving up on PD. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, hopefully this new idea of the marshals might help. But I want to make sure Weiss and I are kind of, you know, of a similar mindset, that we get we figure out what kind of points we do want to bring forward, because it's not just I mean, you and I have talked so much about PD, but you know, I've actually been doing quite a few ride-alongs, and I've been seeing some of the issues. I've been seeing where marshals could, I hate the word marshal because it leaves such a bad taste in everyone's mouth nowadays. That kind of an entity could help in some avenues and not in others. This internal IA mentality, I think, has been a massive failure. I think the best IA that has happened has been by PD itself, by the command system, by their structure.
Okay.
And I think they just need educators. I think they need guidance about how to flush out a scene properly. The best example of this would be the Jackie Snow case, right? If there was a proper scene lead, they would know, oh, there's no way in hell, when we never saw somebody inside this ammo crate, that we're actually going to raid a property. I think it needs to start with an educational kind of level, and I would love to see what kind of
luck. Best of luck. I tried really hard. These people just so many of them are gang members with a badge, and it's just I don't know how you don't know what I had to deal with the last 2 weeks. It was bad.
I'm very
really
grateful
bad.
that I was in Seattle.
Yeah, no, I think
my head was in a hole, and it was delightful, Nino, please.
It's just I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think anyone does, but I think I'm willing to throw shit at a wall and see what actually works, because
if the marshals
so many people have just
end
given
up
up,
being
the
like,
old guard has given up.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so transparently, where I think the last iteration of the marshals kind of fell, outside of them, a good number of them spending all their time trying to investigate me over nothing, as can be seen by the 44 reports. And I can swear to you up and down, like if I wanted to do shit, I'd be doing shit. You know, I literally, I track everything, like beyond what anyone's going to subpoena. Where they were lacking in is I would watch them come into Mission Row PD, some of them, and they would dictate, you guys need to follow this equation, and then leave PD in a spot where they're not going to be able to replicate it instead of teaching. if the marshals instead were more of a force of guidance, more of like a big brother, big sister, as opposed to a force that just comes in and says, you suck, we're gonna get you fired. I think the marshals could be significantly more not only approachable, which is I think is key, because if you're not approachable, you're not effective. Exactly.
I have the exact mentality. I've seen those exact same issues where they're unapproachable, and yet they have this good chunk of them have, you know, a good amount of experience on their belt. I would, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna talk to Weiss a bit more about this, but like I'm on the same mentality with you, and I'm actually really glad that I did stop and have a bit of this touch base, because then I know I'll keep moving forward with
I'm
this
very
mentality.
supportive of that.
Okay, great.
For context,
that's really great to hear.
If you ever read that audit about me saying I'm going to audit the marshals, that's what the conversation was about. I was trying to convince them to teach the PD instead of yelling at them, you know?
Great.
Because I know that people do not respond well to do this, you suck. It just doesn't work. It's everybody. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But,
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. I think, you know, it has made them exceptionally disconnected. There's a very weird dialogue that happens between the marshals and PD with both departments. I don't know. Either it gets fixed or they go away. It's kind of my mentality.
I'll go a step further. I mean, if the marshals started to go down that route, I would mandate something in LSPD where they have to affirm by them to get their training.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, look, I want the PD to be better, because if the PD's not better, then the civilians are the ones that end up
I mean,
getting hurt.
You see it yourself. We don't have civilians. Our constituents are 90% felons. And then, you know, the rest of our population, the last 10% is maybe, okay, I'll be a little bit more generous. Probably, let's say 80%, 85% of our constituents are felons. And then the 15% are the very few civilians. Let's be honest, we probably have maybe 30, 40 civilians still living in our state. And the rest of us work as government employees. It is atrocious right now. And I want to build back those civilians. And I think having a strong PD will do that. And not, like you said, these gang bangers with badges. I'm really over it. It's not working.
No, I agree. I think there's and then of some that are felons, I think they do it because they do not trust the PD to have their back.
I agree.
mean, I'm gonna be just straight with you. I got shot. You ready for this? You might get conflicted, actually. I don't give a shit.
Okay, go ahead.
I got shot by a member of the Saints for asking for money for the races. You know that day, the first day of the races?
Yeah.
And I go, why am I going to give you money for races? Like, that's convenient timing. And you're fucking, like, how do I know you're not going to use this for fucking guns or some shit? I didn't trust him for reasons that were in my subpoenas, mind you. He goes, that's not your job. Your job is to give me money. And that argument led to him shooting me. When I refused, and I had an issue with his relative in the police force being the one documenting the scene, they took personal offense to it instead of seeing the obvious, right? I mean, am I wrong for that, right? Can I not feel like personally, like I don't trust a cop to be handling my scene?
You know, we live in a fucking sandbox and they're all children.
So there was like, you don't trust me to do my job. Like, no, bitch, that's not what I said. Like, can I not have a little bit of like, you know what I mean? Like, if me and Andy Jones were at like odds, right?
Right.
I'm not, and like, you know, one of my cabinet members, like she's not going to trust my cabinet and vice versa. Like, that's just like common sense. But it turned to some other shit. And then what the worst part about it is someone got on the phone with who I know damn well was a member of the Saints. Now, if that happens with me, right? And I know I'm an asshole, right? That's just who I am. But if it happens with the mayor of Los Santos, what do you think is going to happen to the everyday person?
Exactly.
Like, you know, JJ at the stalls, that guy used to work every fucking day for months at the at the kebab shop.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
He got charged with gang-related shooting for defending himself.
What?
For just being there. Yeah. It was the saddest story I heard. I didn't show up in the city for a week and a half. And I brought it up to PD. I'm like, how could you do that to him? Like, what made you think that was a good idea and just go to appeal, right?
It's for the W.
And
it's the mentality right now.
And well, you know what I was told? You can't put that on me.
Back.
I go, you cannot put that on me. I'm like,
that.
yeah. I'm like, listen, brother, if literally I have people day in and day out coming to me and saying, like, I have no reason to be around anymore. Like, who do you think his problem that is? That's mine. And if it's PD's demeanor doing it, then yes, of course I'm going to bring it up because it is everybody's responsibility.
I agree.
Right?
You know, there was a competition back in the day. I want to say it was right around the time I became a judge. I think roughly around maybe like July or August. There's a competition about how many people could pull weapons license because of the getting caught with violent felonies. And PD had I heard in a PD meeting, and they were literally keeping track of who could pull the most weapons license. They were looking for opportunities.
That is so cooked.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it's
and it devastated our civilian population. It's why we're dealing with the current issue that we have.
Well, that's why JJ is a full-blown gang member now.
Exactly.
I watched it happen. Like, I watched it. This guy kept us fed. And just because, he's friends with Hydra, it's gang related.
To be related.
Like, what?
Surely.
No, what the fuck? So, and no, I don't know. It was a tough one, like I said.
No, I don't blame you.
But
entirely the opposite of what I would like to think a PD would do. It's about protecting the civilians.
Yeah.
But they've lost the narrative along the way.
Yep. Well, Court Center hopefully will
Court Center will help.
Yep.
And then hopefully whatever we can figure out with this new level of guidance. But I'll talk to Weiss and I'll touch base with you hopefully on Sunday about our ideas with it.
Easy.
All right.
Sounds
good.
You take care.
Sorry for the stopping you, Nino. I'll see you later.
Anytime.